Welcome to Life Stories, where today you'll meet a woman who was erased by her own family until she returned, not for revenge, but with a truth so powerful it shattered everything they believed about her. Imagine spending years building a life from scratch, alone, only to discover that the very people who called you a failure were the ones who made sure you never had a chance. This isn't just a story about success, it's about betrayal that runs deep. A past buried in silence, and the moment a quiet woman finally chose herself. Stay with us, because what begins as a homecoming turns into a reckoning. And the ending? You won't see it coming. Let's begin. Jenna Park hadn't heard her mother's voice in 7 years, but when her cousin Katie called that October night, her hands trembled like it was yesterday. The number lit up her phone while she was sipping peppermint tea, curled up on a thrifted armchair in her Brooklyn apartment. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity, or something like it, slid through her defenses. Jenna, Katie's voice was hushed like she was breaking a rule just by calling. Your parents, they've been asking about you. They want you home for Christmas. The silence on Jenna's end was thick. They're serious, Katie continued. They've been calling around trying to get your number. They haven't wanted me in years, Jenna replied flatly. Why now? Katie hesitated. I think something's changed, or maybe they think you have. Jenna didn't respond. She was staring at the wall, heart caught in her throat, mind unraveling into the past. The smell of stale cinnamon pine cones, her father's hollow cheers for her golden boy brother, the scratch of a used sweater wrapped in cheap paper. A family that forgot her birthday once, twice, eventually stopped pretending they remembered at all. She had left Portland for good reason. She didn't run away, she walked with purpose. And when she stepped into her dorm in Manhattan at 17, she promised herself 2 things: never to go back and never to let them decide her worth again. Still, that night after the call, she didn't sleep. She opened an old photo album out of impulse, thumbing through snapshots of a girl always slightly out of focus. Jenna was always there, just not seen. Not really. The next morning, she sat in a conference room lined with glass and skyline views, leading a strategy meeting with a Swiss bank's CSO. She was confident, exact, and when the presentation ended, her boss winked. You're a damn machine, Park. Ever consider a VP title? That night, Jenna closed the deal on a brownstone condo in Brooklyn. 2 bedrooms, exposed brick, light flooding in through east-facing windows. It was more than a home. It was a line in the sand. But as Christmas crept closer, so did the pull. Irrational, fragile, infuriating. She told her therapist, I don't want to go, but something in me needs to stand there, look them in the eye and prove I'm not that girl anymore. So on December 22nd, she packed her bags. The 6-hour drive back to her childhood neighborhood was coated in cold drizzle and bittersweet memories. The house looked smaller than she remembered, like time had shrunk it out of spite. The paint peeled, the lawn was overgrown, the porch light flickered like it was tired of pretending. Her mother opened the door. Jenna, she breathed, as if her daughter had returned from war. The hug was stiff, brief, scented like furniture polish and regret. Inside, nothing had changed. The same beige couch, the same framed photo of Brandon, her older brother in his Stanford cap. Only now, he had a pregnant wife, Heather, and a startup idea that seemed to dominate the conversation. At dinner, Jenna was seated near the kitchen, just like always. Brandon stood to toast. To family and new beginnings. The room erupted in polite claps. Then he added, as if it were a joke, and to my brilliant little sister who codes something, somewhere. Laughter. Jenna's fingers tightened around her wine glass. I work in enterprise security, she said, her voice calm. My team just licensed a framework to an international bank. I built the core of it. Brandon chuckled. Still sounds like black magic, but hey, if it pays. Later that night, she overheard her father whispering to her mother, she must be making good money. I wonder if she'd help Brandon get the business off the ground. Jenna stood frozen in the hallway. Not sadness, not fury, just recognition. This was who they were. On Christmas morning, she handed out her gifts, custom-made, high-end, thoughtful. When it was her turn to open something, her mother's face blanched. Oh, Jenna, I'm so sorry. We must have forgotten. Brandon said, grinning. Just like when we were kids, huh? Jenna reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a keychain. Sleek, brushed steel. This, she said, holding it up, is the key to my apartment. I bought it last week. Silence. Her father blinked. You bought an apartment with what money? My bonus, she said, from the security framework. After taxes, $150,000. Salary's been six figures for years. The air shifted. Her mother's eyes widened. Why didn't you tell us? You weren't asking, Jenna replied. And just like that, the tide turned. Her parents crowded around her, syrupy praise pouring from mouths that once told her she should find steady work or help out at Uncle Mike's diner. That evening, as Jenna packed to leave early, her father stepped into her old room, now Brandon's home office, and said, "Before you go, we should talk. Brandon needs $200,000 to get his startup moving. You'd be in on the ground floor." Jenna looked at him, then her mother, who added, "It's a family thing, honey." And for the first time, Jenna truly saw them, not as her family, but as people who had never cared for her beyond what she could give. "No," she said. "What do you mean, no?" her mother snapped. "I mean, no, I'm not giving you any money. Not for Brandon, not for anyone." Her brother erupted. "After everything this family did for you? You mean forgetting my birthdays? Calling me selfish? Mocking me every time I succeeded?" "You're ungrateful," her mother hissed. "No," Jenna said, voice steady, "I'm free." She left without looking back. That night, as snow dusted the windshield and the road opened toward the city lights, Jenna felt nothing but clarity. Her phone buzzed with calls, texts, guilt trips. She blocked them all. Back in Brooklyn, she poured herself a glass of wine and stepped onto her balcony. The skyline glimmered like a promise. Have you ever returned to a place hoping it changed, only to realize you were the one who grew? What would you do if the people who once ignored you came back only when they needed something? But just when Jenna thought she had closed the door on her past for good, a knock would come, one that held a truth she never saw coming. Continue to Part 2. A week after Christmas, Jenna thought the storm had passed. She had returned to her Brooklyn routine with the quiet grace of someone reclaiming their rhythm. Morning lattes, late-night debugging sessions, and walks through Fort Greene Park with Morgan, her closest friend. Her brownstone condo, still faintly smelling of new paint and jasmine candles, had never felt more like home. But peace, it turns out, can be deceptive. The email arrived on a Tuesday. Subject line, family reconnection. The sender's name made her stomach turn. Heather, "Hi Jenna, I know things got tense over the holidays, but I wanted to reach out personally. Brandon isn't perfect, but he's under a lot of pressure. The startup was our last shot before the baby comes. I thought maybe you and I could talk. Maybe meet for coffee, just us. No strings, I promise." Jenna didn't answer for 2 days. When she finally did, it was with a single line. Thursday. 10 a.m., Stumptown Coffee. Don't bring him. Heather arrived 5 minutes early, dressed in expensive loungewear, her belly more prominent now, eyes puffy beneath thick mascara. She smiled nervously when Jenna walked in. "You look good," she said. "You texted," Jenna replied, sitting across from her. "I wanted to say I'm sorry," Heather began. "For the things Brandon said, for the way our family treated you." Jenna raised an eyebrow. "You laughed too." Heather winced. "I know, I did, but that doesn't mean I didn't see what was happening. She broke off. "You ever feel like you're stuck playing a part? Like you woke up one day in someone else's life, and now you're too deep to rewrite the script?" Jenna said nothing. Heather exhaled. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just thought you should know that after you left, things got worse. Your parents are furious. Brandon feels humiliated, and I'm here trying to figure out how to raise a child in a house where no one knows how to love without keeping score." There it was. The truth, raw and unvarnished. Jenna studied her. This wasn't the Heather who chuckled smugly beside Brandon. This was a woman unraveling. Heather looked down. "They told me you were the difficult one. Cold, detached. But I see it now. You were just surviving." The admission hit Jenna harder than she expected. Not because it was surprising, but because it was true. She had spent her entire life trying to survive in a family that only valued performance, not presence. And now, someone from the inside was acknowledging it. Heather wiped her eyes. You don't owe us anything. I know that. But I thought you should know there's a story being told about you. One where you're the villain. The ungrateful daughter who abandoned her family for money. I figured as much, Jenna said softly. But that's not what I see anymore, Heather added. I see someone who walked away from something broken and somehow became whole. They sat in silence for a while, the city moving around them. Outside, snow began to fall in slow, deliberate flakes, softening the hard edges of the sidewalk. As Jenna stood to leave, Heather reached into her coat pocket. I don't know if this means anything, but Brandon found something. After you left. She handed Jenna a folded sheet of paper. Jenna hesitated, then opened it. It was a printout. A college acceptance letter. From a top-tier tech university in California, dated 6 years ago, addressed to Jenna Park. Jenna's breath caught. I found it in your old bedroom, Heather said. It had never been opened. Her voice cracked. They hid it. Jenna sat down again, legs suddenly weak. Her world spun not with rage but with something colder, deeper. So they knew. They always knew. They had mocked her for not going to college, for working during the day and coding at night. They had pretended she was the failure, when they were the ones who stole her shot. Jenna folded the letter, carefully, precisely, like a bomb that could go off if she didn't handle it right. Thank you, she said, barely above a whisper. She didn't cry, she didn't scream. She just walked out into the snow, face stung by the wind, something inside her crumbling. Not because she was broken, but because something buried had finally surfaced. That night, she didn't go home. She found herself at Morgan's apartment, eyes glassy, hands shaking slightly. They lied to me, Jenna said, voice hollow. They robbed me of something I didn't even know I lost. Morgan wrapped her in a blanket and didn't ask questions. As midnight struck, Jenna sat by the window, watching snow swirl under a street lamp. The world felt still, heavy. She had built her life from scratch. She had succeeded despite everything. But now she had to confront what had been taken. Not just a letter, not just an opportunity, but a piece of herself she'd buried to survive. What would you do if you discovered the life you thought you chose was actually shaped by a lie? And as Jenna prepares to confront her past one last time, she'll have to ask herself, is justice worth reopening the wound? Continue to part 3. Jenna sat in the back seat of the cab, the letter folded tightly in her coat pocket, as if it might dissolve if she let go. Outside, Brooklyn blurred past, snow swirling against orange streetlights, sirens echoing like ghosts in the distance. But inside her chest, something was still burning. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. Not Morgan, not her team at work, not even Ethan, the soft-spoken designer she'd started seeing in early spring. He didn't push when she said she needed space, just offered her a thermos of coffee and a quiet, take your time. She was going back, not to beg, not to forgive. She needed answers. Closure. A reckoning, maybe. When the cab pulled into her parents' street in Portland, it was just past noon. The house looked the same. Of course it did. Time hadn't moved here, not like it had for her. She knocked. No one answered. She knocked again. Harder. Finally, the door opened. Her father stood there in socks, holding a half-empty mug. His face froze. Jenna, I need to talk to Mom. She's out with Brandon and Heather, baby shopping. Jenna stepped inside without asking. The same bowl of dusty potpourri greeted her from the hallway table. Same silence, same tension. I know about the letter, she said. Her voice was low, steady. The college acceptance, the one you hid from me. Her father paled. Don't lie. Heather found it in my old room. He opened his mouth, closed it, then sat down slowly at the kitchen table, suddenly looking older. Smaller. It wasn't like that, he said. We were trying to protect you. From what? Jenna snapped. From success? From being more than what you expected of me? You were already talking about New York, about going far away. We thought if you stayed, maybe. You thought you could contain me. He looked away. I worked nights. I took on debt. I thought I was the one who failed. Her throat tightened. But you stole my chance, and then you had the nerve to laugh at me for not measuring up. He looked like he wanted to cry, but Jenna didn't care. Not anymore. You don't get to rewrite it now. Now, she said. I needed you back then, and you let me believe I wasn't enough. A door opened behind her. Her mother had come home. She froze in the hallway, grocery bags in hand. "I told you she'd find out," her father said quietly. Her mother's eyes flared. "What are you doing here?" "I know about the letter," Jenna said. There was a long pause. Her mother exhaled slowly. "You wouldn't have lasted there," she said coldly. "It would have broken you." "No," Jenna said, voice trembling. "You broke me, and I rebuilt myself without you." The silence stretched until it hurt. "I didn't come here to forgive you," Jenna said. "I came to tell you that what you did mattered, and I won't let you pretend it didn't." "You think you've become something," her mother said, brittle. "You think you're better than us." Jenna stepped back toward the door. "I don't think. I know who I am. And the worst part, you could have been proud of me. You just chose not to be." She left without another word. That night, Jenna drove out of Portland and kept driving, past the snow, past the suburbs, until she found herself at the coast. She sat on the hood of a rental car as waves pounded the shore in the darkness. She let herself cry then, not for them. For the girl who waited by the mailbox every day for a letter that never came. For the girl who celebrated her scholarship alone with a slice of grocery store cake. For the woman who had finally stopped chasing the apology she was never going to get. 3 months later, Jenna stood at the front of a small crowd in a high-rise Manhattan conference hall, her name printed boldly on a placard below the title. Head of Engineering, Polaris AI Security. She told the story, not of betrayal but of resilience. She didn't name names. She didn't have to. Afterward, someone asked her during the Q&A, "What would you tell your younger self if you could?" Jenna smiled, just a little. "I'd tell her to keep building. Even when no one's watching, especially then." After the event, she walked out into the spring sunlight and found Ethan waiting, holding a brown paper bag with her favorite muffins and a coffee with almond milk. "Still want to go to Japan?" he asked. "More than ever." That summer they walked under the lanterns of Kyoto, fed koi in temple gardens, and took the bullet train through hills so green it looked unreal. Jenna didn't post about it, didn't text her mother, didn't explain herself to a single soul. She had made peace, not with the people who hurt her, but with the truth that she didn't need their permission to heal. She had spent years grieving a family that never existed. Now she was free, and that, she realized, was the most beautiful kind of ending. What part of Jenna's journey stayed with you the most? If you loved this story, comment 100 below. Where are you watching from today? Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Thanks for watching Life Stories.